Hello everyone and welcome to the third installment of Thoughts on the Aphorisms of the Professor. I do apologize for the break between this installment and the previous one as I was busy trying to find a new microphone to record the series, as you can hopefully tell. Today is the 20th of January 2022 at 4:30 on a fine Thursday afternoon. I am your one and only food philosopher, and if you're joining us for the first time, this series is meant to be some insights into the aphorisms that belong to Jean-Anthony Brillat-Savarin, the author of the greatest book on food of all time, The Physiology of Taste. He's also known for the quotation, "Tell me what you eat and I shall tell you what you are," yet another one of his aphorisms. This will hopefully be a breakdown of what Brillat-Savarin might or will have meant when writing these aphorisms, and hopefully will serve as a starting point into the journey of food philosophy. Now, some of this will be a tiny bit off script, some of it may be my own rambling thoughts, so do bear with me. And so we are starting today with Aphorism 9. The discovery of a new dish does more for human happiness than the discovery of a star. And so now, first off, an initial analysis of the aphorism. Some would think that this aphorism makes no sense in either the modern day or the time in which it was written, with the Physiology of Taste being originally published in 1825. This was only around 200 to 300 years after prominent astronomers such as Galileo, Copernicus, and Kepler lived and wrote their famous works on the universe. Even then, before that time, we had the ancient Greeks with their study of astronomy being characterized by the pursuit of rational physical explanation for celestial phenomena. And even then, we had the sextant, an instrument which allowed many sailors to find their way to their destination or find their way back home through the measurement of celestial objects respective to the horizon, so that longitude and latitude may be determined. And so it would be fair to say that throughout human history up until Brillat-Savarin, that the study of astronomy has done much to the advancement of humanity, and probably has caused some eureka moments of happiness as well. And so to analyze it now from the modern perspective, we now possess technologies capable of being able to see stars and galaxies vast distances away from our little bluey green planet that is Earth. And due to social media, anytime that any planet that may be inhabitable or a star that is similar to our own sun would be discovered, we all know that a certain billionaire who's investing into space technology would put out a statement and say that there would be more spaceships and technology made, so we may one day live on that planet. And so again, it would be fair to say that the discovery of a star in modern times would do quite a lot for human happiness. However, at this point, you might be wondering if I'm just defeating my own purpose here about my own beloved book and its aphorisms. In all honesty, I may be. But I'll do my best to prove that the aphorism is correct. And so the question to be asked is, how does the discovery of a new dish do more for human happiness than the discovery of a star? To answer this, I would like to use yet another astronomer, Blaise Pascal. Though he was just a decade or two after the names I had mentioned before, being Copernicus, Kepler, and Galileo, Pascal usually isn't noticed as an astronomer, but rather a philosopher and a mathematician. You may know him from Pascal's triangle and Pascal's wager, and though the latter would certainly be an interesting topic to discuss, the matter at hand of Pascal doesn't necessarily concern his full philosophical efforts, but rather a combination of both his study of astronomy and his philosophical thinking. To quote from his work simply named Thoughts, Pascal states, The whole visible world is but an imperceptible speck in the ample bosom of nature. No idea approaches it. We may swell our conceptions beyond all imaginable space, yet bring forth only atoms in comparison with the reality of things. Let man consider his own being compared with all that is. Let him regard himself as wandering in this remote province of nature, and from the little dungeon in which he finds himself lodged, I mean the universe, let him learn to set a true value on the earth, on its kingdoms, its cities, and on himself. What is man in the infinite? But to show him another prodigy no less astonishing, let him examine the most delicate things he knows. Pascal goes on further to give an example of a mite detailing the intricacies of the creature with extreme description, and draws upon this to say, for man to see again, I quote, an infinity of universes, of which each has its firmament, its planets, its earth, in the same proportion as in the visible world. What Pascal is trying to say here is that first, the planet that we know, planet Earth, the round orb that we live on, is merely a speck of dust within the vast and expansive cosmos around us. Amongst the millions upon millions of stars, Earth is just this tiny, tiny, minute thing that we live on, and we humanity are the tiny, tiny specks of dust on the tiny, tiny speck of dust. And simply put, Pascal is trying to say that we are very, 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 very small to the point of almost insignificance. However, I say almost insignificance though, because of the second statement, where Pascal elaborates on the mite and its fascinating intricacies to the point where you could establish your own universe by simply studying and examining something as small and as minute as a mite. And so, what does this mean for Brillat-Savarin and our aphorism? Well, to put things into more perspective, if we are talking about respective size, plates of food would be the even tinier specks of dust upon the tiny speck of dust that is Earth, and the ingredients even smaller, and the atoms of umami within a dish even more minute. And yet, the simple act of someone eating a dish can evoke entire mood changes. It can brighten their day. It can drag them out of the dreaded days of dreary and dull work, enhance the environment around them to the point of making it an eternal memory in their lives. Simply, at minimum, a dish can make someone's entire day, and at most can establish a lifelong memory that they are never bound to forget. So what does this mean for the discovery of a new dish? Well, I would wager that discovery is not only merely means a creation of a new dish, but also the consumption of it. Meaning that this discovery could happen in any day of our lives. If we decide to go to a new restaurant and try a new dish, for example, or maybe we go to a friend's place for a friendly dinner and they cook something that we have never eaten before. We try a cuisine that we have never eaten before. All of these could constitute a discovery. And to further reinforce this, to use a personal example, during my high school, as a part of the hospitality study subject, I was tasked with creating a dish for the upcoming dinner that was themed around French cuisine. After a few lunchtimes of research, testing, and tasting, and finally a session of cooking, I had finally created a dish that I was to use for the dinner. An eye fillet steak with blue cheese mashed potato, red wine jus, and sauteed mushrooms with a Parmesan wafer. I still hold this dish in high regard today, 7 years on, as one of the best things I had ever created. And this is simply due to the fact that with my mentor's help, it was the first dish I had ever created that I was truly proud of and had made a considerable mark at the dinner. But to come back to the aphorism, here is where Brillat-Savarin and Pascal finally come together. It is within these universes that we call dishes of food that not only allow us to examine them, to study them, and to fully understand them, but also allows us to experience happiness on a level that is simply not achievable with the discovery of a star. For a star is not bound on the Earth, but somewhere off in the vast cosmos of space, unavailable to study within our lifetime, and therefore lacking in that universe that Pascal mentions, the universe that is accessible only to us on this tiny planet that we call Earth. So perhaps the next time we discover a new dish, maybe we should spare a minute to think upon the happiness that it brings us in the moment, and how that may impact our lives much more than another fleeting speck light years away. And so this has been the thoughts on the aphorisms of the Professor, Chapter 3, Aphorism 9, the discovery of a new dish that is more for human happiness than the discovery of a star. I hope you guys have enjoyed this third installment. I do promise that I will be uploading more consistently, so do stay tuned. Subscribe if you want to hear more about food philosophy from your one and only food philosopher, and I'll see you next time.